The old Jeep rumbled to a stop, its headlights cutting through the dense pines of Pine Hollow. John stepped out, the air thick with the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Silence. An unnatural, heavy silence pressed in, broken only by the rustling of leaves in the unseen breeze. John shouldered his pack, a tremor of unease running down his spine. He'd come seeking solitude, but this silence felt less like peace, more like a held breath. John set up camp as twilight deepened, the forest floor growing dark beneath the towering pines. He built a fire, the crackling flames a small defiance against the oppressive silence. As darkness fell completely, the silence seemed to deepen, becoming almost tangible. John threw another log on the fire, trying to ignore the prickling sensation on the back of his neck, the feeling of being watched.
Hours later, nestled in his sleeping bag, John jolted awake. A sound, a child's cry, thin and desperate, echoing through the trees. He sat up, heart pounding, listening intently. Silence. He tried to dismiss it as a dream, the product of the unsettling atmosphere. But then, it came again, clearer this time, closer. Panic welled up in his chest. He grabbed his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness as he stumbled through the undergrowth towards the sound. The cries led him deeper into the woods, the trees closing in like a suffocating blanket. The air grew colder, the scent of pine replaced by a cloying sweetness that made his stomach churn. The cries grew louder, more frantic. Then a light flickered through the trees. John pushed through a tangle of branches and emerged into a small clearing. A dilapidated log cabin stood in the center, its windows dark, save for a single flicker. John approached cautiously, his hand hovering over the hunting knife at his belt. The cries were coming from inside. He knocked hesitantly, the sound echoing strangely in the silence. No response. He tried the doorknob, unlocked. He pushed the door open with a groan, his flashlight beam sweeping across the dusty interior. The cries ceased abruptly. "Hello?" John called out, his voice echoing in the stillness. "Is anyone here?" He stepped inside, his flashlight illuminating cobwebs, scattered furniture, and a thick layer of dust. The air was heavy, stale, with the faint scent of decay. Then he saw her. A little girl no more than 7 huddled in the corner, her eyes wide and filled with a strange, unsettling maturity. She wore a simple white dress, her dark hair matted and unkempt. "Are you all right?" John asked softly, crouching down to her level. She didn't answer, only stared at him with those unnervingly mature eyes. John tried to coax the girl out, but she remained silent, her gaze never leaving him. He noticed the chains bolted to the wall behind her. A cold dread gripped his heart. What had happened here? "Where are your parents?" he asked. The girl didn't answer, but a slow, chilling smile spread across her face. A low moan echoed from the back of the cabin. John spun around, his flashlight beam landing on a hidden doorway. He approached cautiously, his hand trembling. He pushed the door open, revealing a man chained to the wall. "Help me!" the man croaked, his voice raspy. "Get me out of here!" John rushed forward, fumbling with the chains. As he struggled to unlock them, he heard a soft giggle behind him. He turned back to see the girl standing in the doorway, her face illuminated by a flickering lantern she held. The flames danced in her eyes, reflecting something ancient and evil. "You can't save him," she said, her voice surprisingly deep, guttural. "This forest doesn't let go so easily." John stared at her, a chill running down his spine. The girl's form seemed to waver in the flickering light, her shadow stretching across the floor, twisting into monstrous shapes. He blinked, and she was just a little girl again. But the image of her true nature lingered, burned into his mind. The man in chains let out a strangled cry. "Don't listen to her!" he gasped. "She's not what she seems!" John hesitated, torn between the man's pleas and the overwhelming dread from the girl. He made his decision. He couldn't leave the man in this cursed cabin. He broke the chains, hauling the man to his feet. "We have to go now," he urged, his voice tight with fear. They stumbled out, the girl's laughter echoing behind them. They ran past the girl with a chillingly passive expression and out into the night. The forest pressed in, trees alive with unseen eyes. They didn't stop until they reached the clearing. John fumbled with the keys, finally unlocking the door. They piled in, the engine roaring to life, and sped away. The girl's laughter echoed. As they drove through the winding mountain roads, Thomas told John about Pine Hollow, about the ancient evil that clung to the woods, the whispers of a vengeful spirit. He spoke of the girl, a puppet for the forest's malevolent will. John listened, his blood running cold, the image of the girl's true face seared into his memory. John never returned to Pine Hollow. The experience left him shaken, haunted by the chilling encounter. He tried to forget, to bury the memory deep, but the echoes of that night lingered in the darkest corners of his mind, a constant reminder of the unseen horrors that lurk just beyond the edge of the light. Subscribe for more,